Hey Spuddies, Potato McWhiskey here, and welcome to my first impressions and analysis of the August 2020 game update for Civilization 6 that is available now. If you have Steam, it should automatically update the game, but let's go ahead and jump right into it. There's a few new features that I want to talk about a little bit. The first one is the Tech and Civic Shuffle mode. Now, I haven't actually played around with this, but I was watching the developer live stream, which I should remember to link in the description of this video, where they talked about it, and it looks like it's going to be very interesting for, at the very least, providing you with games that don't feel the same. I find myself when I'm playing Civ a little bit, I kind of have these like little efficient pathways that I like to follow down through the Tech and Civic tree, and so randomizing that will give me an opportunity to have a little bit more randomness in my game and have a bit more of a landscape to explore, because I might have to, choose different paths or maybe optimize my game path through the Tech tree a little bit differently. And so I think that's going to be a really, really cool feature. I'm really excited to try it out. And I also think it's just going to make the game a little bit more interesting, because every little option and button that you have to kind of tweak your game will give you things to explore and try, which is always a big plus in my opinion. They've also implemented the Natural Wonder Picker, which is really cool. The basic idea is at the start of the game, there will be a little option box where you can pick which wonders you want to appear in your game, and depending on the map size, a number of them will spawn. I think this is more useful for like banning wonders that you don't really like, or just like deactivate. Like if you really don't like the Cliffs of Dover, just turn it off, and then you never have to see it in your games. Or if you say have a particular set of wonders that you really like, for example, if you like the Pio Tahi or all those sorts of wonders, you can like activate all the ones that you like, and you'll have a higher chance of seeing them in your game. Now, it is important to remember that this isn't guaranteed, because each wonder has to have specific criteria generated by the map for them to spawn, and only a limited number of them can spawn. So I think on a small map, 4 can spawn, and if you don't have, if you only pick 4 for that map, and there's no room for one of them, you'll end up with a map with only 3 natural wonders. So do keep that in mind. I would recommend, if you are going to kind of trim the list down quite a bit, make sure you have 1 to 2 extra wonders, just as a buffer to make sure you don't miss out on a wonder on your map. So that's it for the 2 new features, the Tech and Civic Shuffle and the Natural Wonder Picker. We're going to be looking at those more in depth in videos over the next month, but I think the big things here are the potential balance updates, and I'm really, really curious about how they've changed the game. So the first thing here is amenities. They have removed the free population amenity. That's an interesting change. That's going to make amenities a little bit more scarce and a little bit more important, potentially. This, I feel like, is this could be quite a nerf to wide play, actually, because if you think about it, if you go 6 cities, that was 6 extra free amenities, but if you go 10 cities, that was 10 extra free amenities. So you're actually missing out on a good amount of free amenities there. And it'll also mean that any city settled might start out at -1 amenities, which, could potentially mean that you're suffering negative penalties to your amenities the second you settle a city, which will significantly hurt the rate at which you can expand and grow those cities. They also added an amenity to the palace. I think this is more or less just to make up for the fact that they removed the free population amenity, which I'm totally fine with. I don't think it's going to change the game too much. They increased the golf course amenities by 1. I believe this is the Scotland unique infrastructure. I haven't actually played Scotland in a long time, but the increased by 1, if I remember correctly, I think it actually already gives you 1 amenity, so now it'll give you 2. And I think Scotland gets some extra bonuses from having a lot of positive amenities. I'm interested to see why they made this change. I think it has something. I think I heard them. Yeah, it says it here. They changed these thresholds. We'll talk about those in a second. And they decreased all negative amenity levels by 1, increased happy and ecstatic minimum by 2. Interesting. There's now some new city thresholds. There's ecstatic at 5+, happy at 3 to 4, content at -1 to 2, displeased at -3 to -2, and it goes all the way down to revolt at -8. This is very curious to me, because I don't think my personal complaint about the amenity system was that this really addresses that. I think my personal complaint with the amenity system is that it wasn't granular enough. If I remember correctly, it was like 1 to 2 amenities was happy, and then it was 3+ you were ecstatic, and I feel like they have made it even less granular now, and so amenities are actually going to matter less, weirdly enough, because previously you got the -1 amenities and you were like, well, whatever, I'm missing a bit of yields. Sure, there's less amenities in the game, but now you can go all the way down to -3 amenities and still be as if you're at -2. So I'm not sure that this is the right move. What I would really like to see is just a little bit more granularity to these things, right? Like maybe a level for, +1, -1, that range, and then, 2 to 3, and then 3 to 4, and then, you know what I mean? It's that sort of a thing. I think it's too binary, right? It's like 5% and happy now. I don't think this is ever worth going for, really. And you really just want to try to sit at content so you're not taking a penalty. Yeah, I don't like this change, not because it's not a good change. I think it is a good change. I think it just doesn't go far enough with amenities. I think the big problem for me with amenities is that even like a positive amenity number, like of +10, if you can have +10 positive amenities and your city chugs along as if it has +5, like there's not enough granularity. I'd like to see maybe something like a system where 0 amenities is no positive or negative, and then it's more granular. For each amenity you get a small buff, and then maybe that, maybe it's 2% up to 5 amenities, you get a 2% yield bonus, and then double that for growth or something in that effect area, and then every amenity after 5 you get an additional 1% to the city's yield, and then you could have a similar but more harsher negative penalty for having not enough amenities. And I think that would be a bit better. I feel like right now the system very much reminds me of on the launch of Stellaris, there was like a whole happiness system that had these thresholds, and it really made happiness suck. Like it was really, really awful. And I kind of feel like that the amenity system is still in that box. I think I'm still going to be basically ignoring amenities in my games because this just isn't granular enough or impactful enough to actually go for, in my opinion. But I do think it's like it's in the right direction of a change, but like these numbers, it just needs to be a little bit more granular. I think that's the real core change. Never mind. They changed this. Let's see. Negative amenities, non-food yields decrease. So displeased. So they actually made these more impactful. See, this is good, I think. This is actually, I would say that this is good. This is a little bit more granular, but I would like to see this even more granular than this. Like maybe, you change some of the levels and stuff like that. So it goes like -5, -10, -15, -5, have more levels, or maybe scale it a bit, right? And then I would like to see, more importantly, in the other direction, I would like to see positive amenities have a similar scaling to it, but maybe on a lower effect level, like maybe a quarter of this. So like, 2.5, 5, 7.5, then 10% bonus or something in that kind of effect range. The theater square now gives major adjacency bonus with the entertainment complex and water park. This is actually huge. One of the biggest problems with the theater square, in my opinion, is that it was really hard to get adjacency for it. And I like that this change is quite mild and small, but gives you some options. And also with the amenity changes, entertainment complexes are going to be a little bit more important. And entertainment complexes are something you want to build in a culture victory anyway. So they synergize even better with a theater square. So I think this is a very positive change. It's a very minor change, but I think it's actually going to be quite impactful for how the game feels. I think this isn't going to be a balance change that really makes or breaks the game. I think it is going to slightly shift things in a very healthy direction though, and I'm a big fan of this change. This looks like a very, very tiny adjustment, but I think it's a superb, very calculated, very clever change by the developers, and it really pushes things to work together very nicely, which a lot of the game systems already do. They've also updated some of the Government Plaza buildings. The Grandmaster's Chapel now provides +5 faith. That's nice. I think there was a little bit of a complaint that, some of the buildings in the Government Plaza didn't give you enough stuff. They were a little bit, kind of weak, and they gave you unique abilities and stuff like that, but just adding a little bit of yield to them is very nice. The diplomatic favor from the foreign ministry, I think that is the one that allows you to levy city-states. That one felt very weak and quite useless. At least now it has a bit of a niche, maybe in a diplomatic victory game. I still think the spy one is very, very strong and probably doesn't need a buff, which I'm okay with because it's already super, super strong, especially against deity AI. So I think these are positive changes. I would like to maybe see more changes like this in some of the earlier ones, although I think a lot of the Government Plaza buildings are in a pretty good place. I think these were the two that were maybe in the worst place, so I think this is an overall positive change. The Naturalist unit now initially costs 600 faith and will increase by 100 faith after each purchase. If there's no further changes to Naturalists, I think religion and culture just got an awful lot stronger. And that's because previously I think Naturalists were like 1,200 faith and they increased by 200 each. This is going to make it so that you can get like a lot more naturalists. And naturalists produce like a ridiculous amount of tourism, and they give you amenities, which is going to work really well with the new amenity system. So I think this is actually maybe a little bit of an overbuff for naturalists, in my opinion. I think maybe something more in the direction of like 800 and 150 would have been a bit more cautious, because I think naturalists are already insanely powerful. And again, yeah, this is just like a little bit of an overbuff. I feel like it's just a little bit too far, but we'll play around with it. We'll see how it feels. That's just my initial impression. I don't know if that's going to be an overbuff. It might work out that it actually works really, really well with some of the changes to theater square adjacency and all that sort of stuff. So we'll see. Fixed issues that prevented apostles from receiving all available promotions. I think this was an issue where if you were, I think it was where if you already had Martyr or a promotion on it from Mont Saint Michel, sometimes when you were picking from your promotions on your apostles, they would only have a choice of 2 rather than the normal 3. Or if you had the is it Leventa? I can't remember the name of the city-state that gives you all choices on your apostles. This is just a healthy change. It's going to kind of move apostles into a more, nice direction. You don't get to feel that negative effect of being like, oh my god, I only get to choose between 2, and both of the choices I have are pretty terrible. The appeal stat has been added to the trait section of districts, terrain improvements and features, Civilopedia pages. This is nice, just a bit more information for the players. And the text for the Acropolis district now correctly shows major adjacency bonuses for adjacent wonders. That's very nice. Just some very, very minor bug fixes here, essentially, in my opinion, and a little bit of UI update. They also have the Apocalypse game mode. They reduced the volcanic activity in the Apocalypse game mode. They reduced the frequency of aid requests. And they added CO2 production to the Soothsayer's actions, 50 for causing a disaster and 30 for sacrificing a unit. I don't think this is going to massively change the game. I do think it is going to slowly, over the course of a game, incur a bit of a diplomatic relations penalty, diplomatic favor penalty, which kind of comes as a downside to using the Soothsayer. I don't think it's a massive change, but it feels like a fairly mild and measured change to the Soothsayer for the Apocalypse game mode that I don't think is going to really change too much about the game. You'll just find yourself with a little bit less Diplo favor in that game mode. We've also got Forest Fire and Jungle Fires now remain in the burnt state longer. That is not the on fire state, that is the burnt state. And I do think these kind of recovered a little bit too quickly. It was kind of too easy to get insane yields on your forests and jungles. So now that these return, they remain in the burnt state a little bit longer. That's good. Because I think on one of the maps, I think it was like the TSL Earth map, there was like the Amazon rainforest. You could like burn one corner of it and then the fire would like wrap around and continuously burn down the forest infinitely. And you would just get like ridiculous yield. So this is a positive change in my opinion. The AI has been given a bias towards getting governments with lots of wildcard slots. That's good. This is going to give the AI a little bit of flexibility in terms of their government to fix an issue where they were overvaluing bonuses from governors for cities with governors. That's interesting. I don't know how that's going to have consequences. Increased desire for civics that unlock new governments. That's good, because I often feel like the AI kind of is like, I'm in like the space age or whatever, and then the AI is still like on theocracy. Cap desire for theology for high faith incomes. Yeah, okay, so that's good. This is the exact problem I was talking about. They would often sit on theocracy or theology for far too long. And various AI improvements. Hopefully those are in the right direction. I have felt like the AI has been getting a little bit better over time. Governors assigned to a city-state now displayed in the city-states panel. Brilliant. Fixed an issue that caused map selection to break. Okay, I never saw that one. Various UI fixes and polish. Brilliant. Fixed balancing start position, choosing invalid placements. Added a bias for starting in the center of the continent to the player. Does not share with other majors. Interesting. That means in future you'll probably be more likely to spawn, if you do not share continent, to be more likely to spawn in the center of it. That's really, really interesting. I don't think it's going to have massive impact on the gameplay, but maybe on a large map where you only have a few civs, that's going to give everyone ample room. Fixed a crash when forming a core unit. Haven't seen that crash. Additional crash fixes. And that is the free update for August, and we'll be getting a new civilization pack next month that I'm really excited about. It'll be 2 new civs, 2 new leaders, a new game mode, and more content. My money is on, and this is a bit of a called shot. I don't know if it's going to, really work, but my money is on some kind of raging barbarian game mode where barbarians are much more likely to revolt. I think the developers have said the next few game modes aren't going to be as fully fledged and feature rich as Secret Societies, and they're going to be kind of more like little toggles to make the game play a little bit differently, like the example I gave where raging barbarians. Although sometimes I feel like when I'm playing Civ, the barbarians already feel like they're raging. That's it for me. That's it for the patch notes. I'm really excited for this patch. I don't think it's going to completely change the game. I do really like using Naturalists, so I'm really excited about those changes. I think overall, these sorts of changes are in the right direction to make amenities really matter, which I think is a big problem with the game. I still don't think this does enough, but I think it's in the right direction of a change. I'm a huge fan of the Theatre Square change. I like these changes. The only change I don't really like is this particular one, because it makes amenities, makes positive amenities feel a bit worthless now, which I think is the big problem. But yeah, that's it from me. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. I love you all very much, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye!